Android, iOS. But is one really the best? We won't go into too much detail about both the operating systems and try and keep this video a little summary. Now, Android holds around 86% of the market share, with iOS making up 13%. Both of them combined hold 99% of the mobile market share. So if you're watching this video right now, it's a good chance you use one of the two platforms regularly, or in some cases may use both. iOS only runs on mobile devices supplied by Apple, while Android pretty much runs on anything, on any device. Now, Android is far more customizable due to its open source nature. So if you don't like certain aspects of Android, you can change it. You don't like a keyboard, change it, get another one. You don't like the way an icon looks, swap it out. You don't like the general layout of your device, get a custom launcher. And these things can be achieved with just a little bit of work and a little bit of tweaking here and there. No rooting required, nothing too complicated. And this is all due to Android's open source nature. With iOS, you pretty much get a one-size-fits-all approach with little room for customization or any form of personalization at all. Even though in recent years they brought in some forms of customization and tried to fix this and include this in iOS, it's pretty much a like it or hate it situation. In terms of performance, iOS is generally superior as a whole on the face of it. This is because Android runs on devices all the way from the low end of the market to the high end, and due to its openness and customization, the level of performance in Android really depends on how well it's optimized for a specific device. And you generally find flagship devices and high-end devices, the performance is generally on par with iOS, which is fully optimized to any device it runs due to a small selection of devices. Both systems have fully functioning, thriving app stores, and almost any requirement you have, there's probably an app for that on either store. But there's a difference in an app being available and being functional and fluently working with the system. This is where Android comes a little short compared to iOS, where back in the days especially, Android apps were pretty buggy, they were slow, they were laggy. And they've come a long way, and in many cases you won't find a difference between the iOS version or the Android version. But in general, apps on iOS run a lot smoother, and this is due to apps on iOS being easier to build, as well as the number of devices the app has to be optimized for is quite low due to it only running on iOS devices. Whereas on Android, the number of devices is huge, and it's almost impossible to optimize the app to that large number of devices. So generally you find applications running better and smoother on iOS than Android. Due to this, you'll find a lot of low quality applications on Android. Sure, you'll find a lot of them on iOS as well, but Apple generally enforces stricter quality control measures for its applications available on the store, so you generally find reduced number of low quality applications on iOS than on Android. But Android has an advantage where majority of the applications available are free, and those that aren't can be obtained for free very easily online. And this is probably one of the main reasons developers tend to focus on the iOS version of their apps, or developing for only iOS in general, because people in the Apple ecosystem are used to paying for things and are used to regularly paying for applications. So developers see a great financial incentive in developing for iOS and focusing their development time and period and resources on the iOS version of their apps, because they can see a value there that they can't see on Android. At the end of the day, Android caters for pretty much everyone, whether you're a simple user or a more complex one. You can customize the interface how you want it down to its core, or in almost every aspect, to deliver a personalized, unique user experience for you. No two devices will ever be the same, even if you're using a stock interface. Some subtle differences will be there on Android, which you won't find on iOS, where almost every device will be identical. Now, that's not necessarily a bad thing if you're someone who's not interested in customization or tinkering with the device too much. You just want something that works, that's basic, and that just does everything you want at a basic requirement level that you have. It's kind of the classic case of paying more for less.